The monsters are not hunting people because they are hungry. They are not killing because they enjoy violence. They only come after the sun goes down because darkness is the only moment when the town loses its memory. And if that sounds impossible, look at what the show is actually telling us. Every night follows the same pattern. The monsters walk slowly. They smile. They talk calmly. They never rush unless something breaks the rules. That behavior makes no sense if they are ordinary creatures. Predators chase. Predators attack. But these monsters wait. They almost seem to be following a schedule. And this is where it gets darker. What if night is not their hunting time? What if night is their working time? What if every death is part of something much larger than survival? That idea changes everything we think we know about From. The biggest mystery was never why people cannot leave the town. The real mystery is why the monsters never appear during the day. If they are powerful enough to tear people apart with their bare hands, why disappear every morning? Why hide underground? Why allow the survivors to move freely for hours? That has never been fully explained. Most fans simply accept it as a supernatural rule. But that explanation is too simple for a show that hides clues inside almost every episode. This is the detail everyone missed. Every important mystery in the town follows cycles. Day and night. Hope and fear. Arrival and death. Nothing happens randomly. Every event follows a pattern, and patterns usually mean control. But here's what changes everything. Think about the monsters themselves. They do not act like wild animals. They dress like people from another era. They smile almost perfectly. They speak politely before killing. Sometimes they even remember names. They know personal details they should never know. That is terrifying because it suggests they are constantly learning about the people trapped inside the town. The question is how. If they spend every daylight hour hiding underground, when are they collecting information? Unless they do not need to. Unless the town itself is giving them everything they need. Look at what the show is actually telling us. Every person who arrives slowly starts changing. Fear becomes stronger. Trust becomes weaker. Strange dreams become more common. Hallucinations begin appearing. Some characters hear voices. Others see children who should not exist. Some are pulled toward places they cannot explain. These experiences are usually treated as separate mysteries. But what if they are all connected? What if the town is constantly observing every person inside it, collecting memories, fears, and emotions until night finally arrives? Suddenly the monsters no longer look like hunters. They look like collectors. Think carefully about the talismans. Everyone believes they stop the monsters because they have magical power. But has the show ever actually proven that? No one truly understands how they work. The talismans simply create a boundary that the monsters refuse to cross. That is very different from being physically unable to cross. Notice how the monsters often stand outside smiling. They never look frustrated. They never desperately try to break through. They almost seem to respect the rule. Why? If their only goal is killing, why obey limits that reduce their chances of success? Unless those limits were never meant to stop them. Unless those limits are part of the same system they already serve. And this is where it gets darker. Imagine the town as a giant machine instead of a haunted place. Every person who enters becomes another piece inside that machine. During the day, the machine watches. It studies relationships. It creates hope. It allows people to believe escape is possible. Hope keeps people alive. Hope creates stronger emotions. Then night arrives. The machine changes. The monsters emerge to harvest the emotional damage built throughout the day. That would explain why psychological suffering always seems more important than physical survival. The monsters rarely rush to kill the first person they see. Instead, they manipulate. They tempt. They whisper. They pretend to be loved ones. They encourage impossible choices. Fear is not a side effect. Fear is the product. Now think back to every conversation the monsters have had with the residents. They often know exactly what to say. They understand guilt. They understand regret. They understand loneliness. One monster convinces a lonely man to open the window. Another patiently waits for someone to lose control. They attack emotional weakness before attacking the body. That behavior feels strangely human. Too human. Because the real weapon was never their claws. It was information. They know where to strike because they already understand the victim's deepest fear. But how could they know something so personal? That question has haunted the series from the very beginning. Most viewers assume it is simply supernatural knowledge. Yet the show repeatedly connects memories with places. Characters experience visions after entering certain locations. They remember things they never witnessed. They dream about events connected to the town's past. It is almost as if memories are stored somewhere outside the human mind. If the town can preserve memories, then it can also share them. And if it can share them, then the monsters never need to spy on anyone. They simply receive the emotional map every single night. This completely changes the meaning of darkness. Night is not dangerous because the monsters wake up. Night is dangerous because that is when the connection between the town and its creatures becomes complete. During daylight, the town gathers information. After sunset, it distributes it. Every smile becomes more personal. Every conversation becomes more accurate. Every attack becomes perfectly targeted. Suddenly, their slow walking makes sense. They are not searching for victims. They already know exactly where fear is hiding. And once you see that pattern, another terrifying possibility appears. Maybe surviving the night was never the real challenge. Maybe the real trap begins during the day, when every conversation, every secret, every argument, and every painful memory is quietly being recorded by something no one can see. Because if the town itself is feeding the monsters, then every sunrise is secretly preparing the next nightmare, and that raises a far more disturbing question. If fear is what the monsters truly collect, who, or what, is waiting to consume everything they bring back before dawn? If this theory is true, then the tunnels beneath the town are not just hiding places. They are the center of the entire system. Most people assume the monsters sleep there because sunlight somehow weakens them. But the show has never actually confirmed that. We accepted it because it seemed logical. That's not the real mystery. The real mystery is why the tunnels exist at all. They are far older than the people living in the town today. Someone built them. Someone connected them beneath nearly every important location. And this is where it gets darker. What if those tunnels were never designed for the monsters? What if the monsters were placed there because the tunnels were already serving another purpose? Look at what the show is actually telling us. Every major discovery eventually leads underground. Victor's memories point toward hidden places. Tabitha falls into a massive underground network that should not even exist. Jade continues finding symbols that connect different locations instead of explaining them. Again and again, the answers are buried beneath the surface. That pattern cannot be random. The town wants people looking above ground while the truth remains below. And if the tunnels are the heart of the town, then the monsters may simply be its guardians, protecting something much more important than themselves. But here's what changes everything. Notice how the monsters almost never destroy the town itself. Houses remain standing. Roads remain usable. Electricity continues working despite having no clear source. Even after brutal attacks, the environment quickly returns to an unsettling normal. If these creatures truly wanted chaos, they could burn buildings, destroy food supplies, or make survival impossible. They never do. Their violence is incredibly selective. They target people, not the structure. That suggests they are protecting the town instead of attacking it. Think about every night someone breaks emotionally. The consequences usually spread far beyond one victim. A single death causes guilt, blame, anger, and mistrust throughout the entire community. Families begin arguing. Leaders lose confidence. Friends stop believing each other. Hope weakens. Fear grows stronger. The monsters do not simply kill individuals. They infect the entire group with despair. That is far more efficient if emotional suffering is the real resource being harvested. This is the detail everyone missed. The monsters rarely celebrate after a successful attack. They do not roar with victory. They do not behave like creatures satisfying hunger. Instead, they calmly leave. almost like workers finishing another task before returning underground. That emotionless routine feels disturbing because it removes personal hatred from the equation. They're not murdering because they enjoy it. They are completing an assignment. Now think about the smiling faces. At first glance, the smiles seem designed only to frighten the audience. But why would every monster wear almost the exact same expression? Smiling usually represents comfort, trust, or kindness. The monsters twist that symbol into something terrifying. They weaponize familiarity. Every smile says the same thing. Lower your guard. That psychological manipulation appears before almost every attack. It is never random. It is deliberate conditioning. Fear becomes even stronger when it arrives wearing a friendly face. And this is where the children become incredibly important. Throughout the series, the mysterious children never behave like ordinary ghosts. They rarely attack. Instead, they guide, warn, or silently observe. Their presence feels completely different from the monsters. Many viewers believe they represent innocence trapped inside the curse. But what if they represent something else entirely? What if they are proof that the town separates people into different roles after death? Some become collectors. Others become witnesses. The children may remember what the monsters have forgotten. Look closely at Victor. More than anyone else, he understands that memory is survival. He constantly draws pictures.
He stores objects.
He refuses to let the past disappear. At first this seems like trauma, but perhaps Victor is unknowingly fighting the town itself. If the town feeds on forgotten truths, then every drawing becomes an act of resistance. Every preserved memory weakens the system's ability to rewrite reality. Victor may not fully understand what he's doing, but instinctively he keeps recording evidence before the town can erase or distort it. Now compare Victor to Jade. Jade cannot stop searching for patterns. Symbols appear everywhere around him. Visions become stronger the deeper he investigates. Most people see those symbols as clues leading toward answers. But what if they are actually warnings? A system that constantly marks its own boundaries, like ancient signs saying, "Do not go further." Jade keeps crossing those boundaries anyway, and every step seems to push him closer to a truth that damages his own mind. The deeper someone understands the town, the more unstable reality becomes around them. But here's something even stranger. The monsters almost never interfere with these investigations directly. They could easily kill Jade during the night. They have had opportunities to eliminate Victor countless times. Yet both characters remain alive despite holding some of the most dangerous knowledge in the entire series.
Why?
That question should bother every fan. If knowledge threatens the town, why allow the people closest to the truth to survive? One possible answer is terrifying. The town needs someone searching. Every mystery requires someone to solve it. Curiosity creates obsession. Obsession creates emotional investment. The closer people believe they are to escaping, the greater the emotional collapse when those hopes are destroyed. In other words, hope is not the opposite of fear. Hope is the mechanism that produces the strongest fear when it fails. That completely changes how we see the monsters. They are not trying to stop people from asking questions. They are allowing just enough progress to keep the emotional cycle alive. Every clue leads to another mystery. Every discovery creates 10 new questions. Every apparent victory ends in devastating loss. The survivors believe they are moving forward, but emotionally they keep falling deeper into the same trap. And this is where Season 4 becomes so important. The story is no longer focused only on survival. It is slowly exposing the machinery behind the nightmare. The visions are becoming clearer. The connections between the tunnels, the symbols, the children, and the monsters are growing stronger. These mysteries are beginning to overlap instead of existing separately. That suggests the writers are pulling every storyline toward one central revelation. Because if the tunnels are the heart of the town, if memories are the fuel, and if the monsters are only collecting fear instead of creating it, then the most terrifying creature in from may still be waiting beneath them all, hidden so deeply that even the monsters answer to it without ever questioning why. If the monsters are only collecting fear, then someone must be receiving it. That is the final piece of the puzzle. Every system has a purpose. Every machine has an operator. And that is the question From has been quietly asking from the beginning. Who benefits from keeping the town alive? Because despite everything that happens, the town never truly dies. People die. Families are destroyed. Communities collapse. But the town continues exactly as it always has. New people arrive. The cycle begins again. That is not random. That is maintenance. But here's what changes everything. We have been treating the monsters as the final enemy because they are the most visible threat. The show wants us looking at the creatures outside the windows while ignoring the intelligence hiding behind them. Think about every horror story where the audience mistakes the weapon for the person holding it. A knife is dangerous, but it never chooses its victim. The monsters may be terrifying, but what if they never choose anyone either? What if every attack is directed by a force that never has to leave the shadows? Look at what the show is actually telling us. Strange voices guide certain characters. Visions appear at the exact moments they are needed. Coincidences happen too often to be coincidences. One person discovers a clue while another is distracted somewhere else. Someone escapes danger only to be led toward an even darker mystery. It almost feels as if invisible hands are moving every character across a giant game board. The town is not simply reacting to people. It is planning several moves ahead. This is the detail everyone missed. Every time the survivors begin working together, something immediately tears them apart. Sometimes it is a death. Sometimes it is an argument. Sometimes it is a terrifying discovery that divides opinions. Unity never lasts for long. The timing is almost perfect every single time. That suggests the town understands human behavior. It knows exactly how much hope people need before taking it away. It allows progress because progress creates attachment. And attachment creates devastating loss. Think about Boyd. More than anyone else, Boyd refuses to surrender. He keeps searching for answers even after losing friends, family, and pieces of himself. Every victory he earns comes with an even greater cost. Finding the talismans saved lives, but it also gave everyone hope that survival was finally possible. Then the town responded with even more disturbing events. New creatures, new visions, new mysteries. It is almost as if the system adapts every time the survivors improve their chances. And this is where it gets darker. A normal predator does not evolve because its prey becomes emotionally stronger. But an intelligent system would. Imagine the town as an experiment that constantly adjusts itself. Every solution discovered by the survivors forces the town to create another obstacle. Escape becomes impossible because the rules themselves keep changing. The people are not fighting monsters. They are fighting an intelligence that learns from every attempt to defeat it. Now think about why people from different places continue arriving without understanding how they got there. Cars appear. Roads change. Reality bends. There is no obvious geographical explanation. That suggests the town is not waiting for victims by chance. It is selecting them. The arrivals are too perfectly timed. New people often appear after major losses, almost as if empty spaces inside the community are being filled. The population changes, but the experiment continues. That is a terrifying pattern because it means the town may not be trapping random travelers. It may be choosing specific people for specific reasons. But what reasons? That question may be connected to something almost every character shares. Nearly everyone arrives carrying emotional pain before reaching the town. Broken relationships, personal guilt, grief, regret, unresolved trauma. The town rarely creates those wounds. It finds people who already have them. That changes the entire meaning of the story. Perhaps fear is not manufactured inside the town. Perhaps fear is simply amplified until it becomes impossible to escape. Look again at the monsters' conversations. They almost never invent emotional weaknesses. They expose weaknesses that already exist. They remind people of their failures. They tempt them with lost loved ones. They whisper exactly what someone secretly wants to hear. That means the monsters are not creating lies. They are reflecting truth in its most painful form. They function almost like mirrors, forcing every survivor to confront the darkest parts of themselves before destroying them. And this is why they only come at night. Night is when human beings are naturally most vulnerable. Darkness removes certainty. Familiar places become unfamiliar. Small sounds become terrifying. Doubt grows louder than logic. During daylight, people distract themselves with work, conversations, and plans. But when darkness falls, they are left alone with their thoughts. The town understands that. The monsters understand that. Night is not just physical darkness. It is psychological darkness. That is when guilt, regret, loneliness, and fear become strongest. The monsters are not waiting for the sun to disappear. They are waiting for the human mind to become easier to break. That explains why they walk instead of running, why they smile instead of screaming, why they speak instead of growling. Their greatest weapon has never been speed. It has always been certainty. They know panic will do half the work for them. They know fear spreads faster than violence ever could. By the time they reach the door, many victims have already defeated themselves. But here is the most disturbing possibility of all. What if killing was never their primary objective? What if every death is simply the final step after extracting everything emotionally valuable from a person? If fear is the resource, then death is only what remains after the harvest is complete. Suddenly, every unanswered mystery begins pointing in the same direction. The tunnels, the talismans, the symbols, Victor's memories, Jade's visions, Boyd's impossible survival, the children in white, the strange voices, the repeating cycles. None of these mysteries compete with one another. They fit together like pieces of a single design. A design that has been operating long before the current residents arrived and will likely continue long after they are gone. That is why the monsters only come at night. Not because darkness gives them power. Not because sunlight weakens them. But because night is the exact moment when the town has gathered an entire day's worth of fear, hope, regret, and memory, and the monsters are sent to collect what the town has carefully prepared. And if this theory is even partially true, then escaping the monsters will never be enough. Escaping the town will never be enough. Because the real enemy is not walking through the streets after sunset. The real enemy is the unseen intelligence that has been watching every conversation, every choice, every dream, and every nightmare since the moment the first road led someone into the town. Which means season may 4th not reveal how to kill the monsters at all. It may reveal something far more terrifying. That the monsters are prisoners too, and whatever created this place has not shown its true face yet.